full breakdown on perhaps one of the most impressive racetam nootropics in the book that has been around in the scene for a very long time and is extensively studied and safe to take long term. Oxiracetam. Yeah, look, hey bro, if I haven't talked about it enough, I kind of want to slap myself on the wrist because this stuff is pretty magical. I mean, revives your brain from sleep deficit, gets your brain functional in a cognitive capacity whenever you dose it, is safe to take long term. I mean, it's one of these rare nootropics that just does a whole lot of stuff and you can continue taking it. So let's do a full breakdown of the OG in the racetam nootropic field, oxiracetam. Before I do, what supports this broadcast are epic nootropic products and otherwise performance products on our website. Supercharged Dopamine's video course on the holy grail of dopamine hacking. Many strategies within. That's 15% off. Code is 15 now, livecortex.com. The big one, boys, the Torque nootropic stack right now is buy one, get one free. I mean, try one of the best, most purchased nootropic stacks on the web right now. Literally BOGO, code is Torque BOGO. But how could we forget one of the most potent focus and flow and energy inducing nootropics there is, the Cortex stack. This thing is 20% off. The code for that is 20 now, and you can do that in the description of this video. I'm a consultant on TRT, nootropics, energy optimization, dopamine restoration, sexual dysfunction, host of other things. You can hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. So Wikipedia's explanation of oxiracetam is it's a nootropic drug of the racetam family and a very mild stimulant. I disagree with that. Several studies suggest that the substance is safe even when high doses are consumed for a long period of time. I agree with that because those studies do suggest that. Tests performed on patients with mild to moderate dementia experienced beneficial effects measured by higher scores of tests for logical performance, attention, concentration, memory, and spatial attention. Here's something interesting. Improvement was also seen in patients with exogenic post-concussion syndrome, organic brain syndromes, and other dementias. Pharmacokinetics is important. You have to understand like how it absorbs and therefore like what to expect from oxiracetam. Oxiracetam is well absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract with bioavailability of 56 to 82%. That's pretty good. Peak serum levels or peak blood levels of the drug are reached within 1 to 3 hours after a single 800 milligram or 2000 milligram oral dose, with the maximum serum concentration reached between 19 and 31 UG per ml at these doses. The half-life of oxiracetam is about 6 to 8 hours, all right? So whereas other racetams clear the system sooner, oxiracetam sticks around to give you cognitive benefits. Now, before we get into the scientific literature on this, let me just explain what oxiracetam does to me and what it typically does for people. In a 300 to 1500 milligram dose range, because that's really where I'd suggest you stick between, you're looking at focus, mental energy, verbal fluency, working memory improvements, motivation, stimulation, like all 6 things, those 6 things from dosing oxiracetam. Undocumented effects or reasons to take it would be if you have a crappy night's sleep and you're in a cognitive deficit as a result of that. Like I know if my sleep gets very interrupted 2 or 3 times, or if I get to bed far too late and I can't actually fall asleep, then the whole thing is just fucking off the rails. So, you know, cognition the next day, memory, my normal, very revitalized, energized, motivated self is just kind of has left my body. And so oxiracetam for the cognitive aspects, for getting my mind geared in and my brain ready to tackle work, is always a rescue agent in that situation. My dose is 500 to 700 milligrams. I have medium dosed it with other racetams at like 300 to 400 milligrams with the equivalent dose of aniracetam, and it's been very effective. I think you should dose a choline source with it, preferably CDP choline in 50 to 75 milligrams. People can go as high as a gram or 1500 milligrams. Again, you know, I've consulted a guy who was on a bunch of pharmaceutical drugs that were modulating acetylcholine receptors, so he required more. He could take 1500 of oxiracetam plus 1500 of aniracetam, and it made him function really great. Now, there are a ton of papers. I mean, this stuff has been extensively studied. So I'm going to take you to one titled Oxiracetam Offers Neuroprotection by Reducing Amyloid Beta-Induced Microglial Activation and Inflammation in Alzheimer's Disease. The beta amyloid plaques are like the predominant hallmark of Alzheimer's. What oxiracetam ended up doing is decreasing the production of inflammatory molecules that were induced by the beta amyloid plaques seen in Alzheimer's. Mechanistically, oxiracetam does a lot. In a paper titled Biochemical Studies on the Nootropic Drug Oxiracetam, they had these 20-month-old rats that were spontaneously hypertensive and that had cerebrovascular lesions. in those rats, they had impaired memory and learning. What they found is that oxiracetam improved in vitro and in vivo synthesis of phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylethylamine. They go, we may assume that oxiracetam acts on the turnover of phospholipids more than on their rate of synthesis from injected precursors. Here's an interesting paper that deals with the acetylcholine release side of oxiracetam, which is why you get focus and memory and verbal fluency from it. It's titled Effects of Oxiracetam on Neurotransmitter Release at Rat Hippocampal Slices and Synaptosomes, where they go on to say, thus, oxiracetam may selectively increase the release of glutamate and acetylcholine in the hippocampus by a mechanism which appears not to be cited in the releasing nerve terminals. Another paper titled Oxiracetam and Aniracetam Increase Acetylcholine Release from the Rat Hippocampus in Vivo. And this is what we've always known, and I've actually cited this literature, and that's kind of where in my brain this is coming from, that it forces you to release more choline. These results indicate that oxiracetam and aniracetam could act on cognitive processes by stimulating the hippocampal cholinergic pathways. What they're likely referring to is the cholinergic septohippocampal pathway that has been shown to have an important role in various hippocampal-dependent behaviors, including learning, working in spatial reference memory, arousal, and the response to fear and stress. Bottom line is this. Look, degradation, as is seen in this article, of cholinergic neurons impairs memory, and enhancement of cholinergic synapses improves cognitive processes. But then you got threads like this in Reddit titled, My Experience with Oxiracetam. This is in the Nootropics subreddit. Great place to go find information regarding sources and a host of other, like people's anecdotals and things. Guy goes, hello all. Today I totally smashed my psychology exam on oxiracetam, and I just want to share my experience with this nootropic because I noticed so much difference in my cognition, especially memory, verbal comprehension, and verbal fluency. I just can't help it. So he goes on to say that he studied for this long exam. He was dosing low in 300 milligrams for 5 to 7 days. And he ends up saying, I am definitely switching from modafinil to oxiracetam as my study nootropic. Now, this is not surprising to me. I mean, mechanistically, this is exactly what oxiracetam is doing. It's improving the neurological circuitry for taking information in, comprehending that information, compartmentalizing that information, encoding information into longer term memory. But the really interesting thing about the acute dosage of oxiracetam is you just fucking feel smarter. Somewhat of a Swiss Army knife that, all the different facets of a Swiss Army knife like do different things. Your brain is kind of in a state where it can do a lot of different things much better than your regular baseline while on oxiracetam. I mean, you'll be more verbally fluent. You can take it to go to meetings. If you have some sort of presentation to give where you got to be really cognitively adept, take oxiracetam. I like using it for writing courses like, the Nootropics Mastery course, the Supercharged Dopamine course, like taking all the stuff that's in my brain and, putting it down on paper in sort of a formatted way and then, putting it into a video course. It's just so much easier to do brain-related tasks when oxiracetam is in the picture. Oxiracetam stacks well with all other racetams. Okay, you want to medium dose them together if you're going to stack them all together. Choline sources, and that would be alpha GPC, CDP choline by tartrate. There we go. Stacks extremely well with the energy compounds. All right, that's if I can do that, teocrine, theobromine, dynamine, caffeine. I haven't done this in isolation because there were other compounds in the drink that I was consuming, but paraxanthine also stacks extremely well with oxiracetam. Stacks well with Alcar, stacks well with bromantane, and stacks well with modafinil. Okay, if you want to have a fully integrated brain with a lot of different facets of functionality, take modafinil plus oxiracetam. Now, there are plenty of other things that it stacks well with, but these are the major, most effective synergies. And if I were to isolate like one combination in all of this that oxiracetam stacks well with, it would be this baby right here. Modafinil. So what's the general takeaway? We have a racetam nootropic that is extremely well studied that reduces beta amyloid plaque formation and alleviates cognitive dysfunction in people that have Alzheimer's. We didn't cite the study, but I have on many other videos where people took upwards of 1,600 milligrams of oxiracetam for months. And we're talking about 8 to 9 months. It may have even been a year. No negative side effects, no damage inflicted on their livers, no degree, 0.0 degree of toxicity over a long stint of high dosing of oxiracetam. I mean, people are looking for something they can take that improves brain performance and gives them energy that they can take sustainably. And there are many compounds that are like that. Oxiracetam is one of them. Guys, coaching, we're coming up on busy season. So if you need to book me, you got to get in now, whether it's for nootropics, any of the longer term stints. We've got a 1 month one-on-one. We have a 3 month one-on-one, a 6 month one-on-one. We've got TRT protocol optimization consultations, email consultations where you can email me directly with your situation. I'll craft a response right back to you. The Torque Stack is buy one, get one free right now. I mean, this needs no introduction. This stuff is powerful all day energy that turns the brain on in more than just one way. I mean, you get memory, verbal fluency, the motivation to work, lots of different facets of Torque. Code for that is Torque BOGO. And again, if you want focus, flow, and mental stimulation in a bottle, way better than your coffee that you're spending $7 a day on. Just buy Cortex. I mean, this stuff is designed by me personally. It's one of my favorite stacks, and it hits very hard and very quickly. That is 20% off. Code for that is 20 now. All right, everybody. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Hope you're having a great weekend. More content coming this week, so look forward to it, and I'll talk to you in the next one.